From age to age, from hand axe to highway, we have learned how to winter through the snowfall, to winter through the ice storms and lean months. Now, in our world newly knit and charged, and with our fellows in danger, we learn to winter through the spring. Good evening, viewers. It's been a long day of swimming in the sunshine for me, but tonight it's time to get spruced up and cologned because I've got a blind date. A blind date with numbers! Alrighty, here's how the game is played. I'm in the middle of some personal research right now, but as always there are a billion interesting topics and I am only one otter trying to read up in his spare time, so I know I need to do a bit of branch pruning as I go along. Which topics are the best use of my time and truly wondrous brain power? A blind date with numbers is a way to help make that decision. You write down a few clear, specific numbers that might influence your opinion on a topic before you look up their values. For example, let's say you're trying to decide whether to buy apples or oranges. You could write down numbers that you think will be important, like cost, or vitamin C levels, or number of tech companies that share the name, and then you go out and look up those numbers. I've made a short list of a few topics that particularly interest me right now, focusing somewhat on areas that will affect the most people, and I've broken these down into 15 or so exact numbers. The full list is in the info bar, but the big four are these. Now, on some of these I have a rough idea of what the answer is, but the important thing here is that I'm scripting this first half of the video before my study session where I look all these up. I won't add or remove any numbers, but I should also emphasize that I'm not committing to any particular course of action here. I reserve the right to look at all these numbers and say, to heck with them, I'm going to start posting videos about fantasy novels. All I'm doing is picking the numbers first, and then looking up their values. Wish me luck. That was wonderful. Good time was had by all. I'm pooped. Now let's look over the results. Even after years of hearing the numbers, the sheer size of the United States prison population still shocks me, and the total population of felony convictions is several times that, at around 25 million. That means there are more people with felony convictions in the US than there are inhabitants of New England or Australia. Insert history joke here. Every year, 600,000 prisoners are released, but a staggeringly high 75% 5-year recidivism rate means that nearly 500,000 of them are likely to be arrested again. If we United States citizens can bring that last number down by just 1%, 4,500 people would avoid incarceration. For humanist utilitarians, like myself, immigration into the United States is definitely an issue worth examining closely, if for no other reason than the large numbers involved. An estimated 10 million undocumented immigrants currently live in the United States. Again, that's something like 2 average-sized states. Imagine growing up in a world where Buckeyes and Michiganders just weren't allowed to vote. Insert political joke here. About 8 million undocumented immigrants are of voting age. If 1% of this population were granted the franchise, this would let 80,000 participate in the democracy they live in. By the way, just for comparison's sake, this was very close to the number I came up with for how many people would be granted the right to vote if 1% of those former convicts who can't vote now were able to. About 60,000. Of the 4 topics I chose to investigate, the effects of peacekeeping were definitely the most difficult to measure. The damage caused by wars falls into a very uneven distribution, dominated recently by the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, of course. It's also notoriously difficult to directly measure civilian casualties, or to infer exactly how much damage is caused by the disease, starvation, and displacement that inevitably results from international conflict. All that said, I personally ended up with a very rough estimate of around 30,000 casualties per year, including combatants, in conflicts where the United States is a key player. Improving our peacekeeping effectiveness by just 1% would result in 300 lives saved per year. Some of you out there may already be familiar with the concept of effective altruism, an approach to charitable giving that relies on strict research methodology. The flagship organization for current human-focused problems in this area is GiveWell, who puts in a great effort to strictly estimate their number of lives saved per dollar donated. I narrowed my focus to looking only at their donations to the Malaria Consortium. GiveWell claims that the cost of saving a life in terms of donations to this organization come out to about $2,500, with GiveWell itself directly donating $30 million to the effort. Considering only this particular fund, a 1% increase in this donation would result in an additional 120 lives saved per year. And what did we learn from all these numbers? Nothing! Well, nothing conclusive. I'm serious. I want to caution my viewers against drawing any conclusion from comparing these numbers. Psst, comment section. Please explain to people why these numbers are incomparable or highly questionable. Talk about tractability, maybe. I mean, it's probably much easier to raise another $3 million for charity than to substantially shift the military-industrial complex. Anyway, setting up a blind date with numbers is just a way of committing yourself to the data, trimming some of the bias out of your informational diet. You might try it yourself sometime. Remember, first pick the numbers you're interested in and then look up their values. Again, the point isn't to draw conclusions, that comes later. This is just a simple exercise that's good to do now and again to keep some context in your head and let the bigger picture have some say. Thank you for your time.